Mukeli anguvusele nkwamukele ehlelweni luhlelo Asakhe kwethu uhlelo kwelethela ngumsakazo wetithombe Eswatini TV. Luhlelo lungena njalo njengabo lesithathu nakubumbana insimbi yemfica ebusuku kudeke kube insimbi yelishumi. Ngulala sala khona netinduna tembuso phansi sibuke nje imisebenzi lendiwa ngewematiko ikakhulukazi kulesalusito nekuthuthukisa inhlala kahle yesive seMaswati. Kudvotele nkulu kwengwala lomuhle kuselangena lomuhla ngethule induna yetekwatisa imbunga Savannah Maziya lesitawuhlala nje kuleli awala lomuhla sitawuva imisebenzi lendikwa litiko layo ikakhulukazi njengoba litiko letekwatisa imbube emhlaba isenayivula iParliament yachaza ukuthi lona mgogodla wekuthuthukisa live la kaNgwane. Nduna Nkosi Minister, thank you so very much for affording us the opportunity to talk to you. Asikwemukele sikhuzele nduna ehlelweni.
And thank you.
Minister, we've had over 100 days in office, and even before you were appointed Senator and Minister for ICT, you served as CEO of Bunengi Group Companies, a global company based in South Africa. Who is Minister Savannah Maziya?
Okay, well, first of all, I was chairperson.
Yes.
And the company was formed by myself over 15 years ago. It's a global company. Who am I? I'm very simple. I'm not as complex as people might think I am. I kind of try and understand the human condition. I'm very hardworking. I'm very driven. I'm very results oriented. I like to be able to bring people along with me in what I'm trying to achieve as much as I possibly can. I like to lead by growing the people that I work with. I think when you're a leader, one of the most important things is developing other leaders and ensuring that you lead with empathy and understanding, but most importantly that you share knowledge, because knowledge is really something that we should all be able to have access to. So my life has been, being from Eswatini and leaving many years ago when I was a teenager, traveling the world, and then began my business. And so I'm Liswati, but I'm a global citizen as well.
I understand you hail from Stegi in the
Yes,
region.
I do.
Okay.
Bantu bakithi babiyakalanga eStegi, and that's the region that we come from, yes.
As you've rightfully said, Minister, you have traveled the world and wahamba usesemncane even. Emaswati ngasanza kwathi mhlawumbe ukuthi are you in touch with the realities and the challenges that dibene neMaswati kuleli?
You can never say you're in touch totally, but what I do like to do is travel around, especially on the weekends when I have some time and I'm in country, to visit certain villages, certain parts of our country, to get an understanding of what life is like, to get an understanding of what we could be able to change, especially in our ministry, and to see what value what we're doing can really bring to people in the different places that they live. So to be in touch, is to say one wants to understand how we can uplift the lives of Amaswati, how we can give them opportunities to be able to open up their own businesses, how we can make sure that whilst they need government does not become everything, and they have chances to be able to have a way to live and make a living.
After your appointment, Minister, ngibuke i-reaction yeMaswati even outside the kingdom.
Right.
There's somebody who said if she can adjust well, her operation radius can have a positive impact not only in ICT but can also make a good link to industries, operation, etc., etc. This brings me to this question, because I do understand as a civil servant in your life. How are you adjusting thus far? It's
very different. It's extremely different from the private sector. But when you are in leadership, many things are the same. How you approach things is the same. You are always a servant when you're a leader, actually. And once you understand that, whether you're in the public service or you're in the private sector, you are serving people. You're serving the people that work for you and the people that you are selling product or services to. The adjustment is interesting. There are many things that we could do better. There are many things we could do faster. There are many people whose lives we could change sooner. And I'm hoping that this administration will be able to commit to that. I'm learning also that the lines are not straight sometimes. What you see is sometimes never what you get. And as a person who likes to be able to understand what's in front of you, that's a challenge. But I can say that I'm lucky to be in the point in my life where I feel it's an honor to serve. So that serving makes me be able to have the patience. That serving makes me able to overlook certain things. That serving makes me be very focused on saying, I'm here to serve Eswatini and say thank you to a country that raised me. So I try to overlook some of the things that are very childish, that are very immature, and focus on things that are going to develop us and make us grow as a country.
Talking about adjusting minister, the former Prime Minister, the late Mr. Ambrose, was nagafika nana from the private sector. Seemingly government ministries are working in silos. Is that what we've seen also?
There's a bit of that. There's a bit of that. I think Cabinet brings that together and tries to make it a much more conducive environment. I think there's a lot more still to be done, but I think that the leadership there is working on it. It's important to be able to stay in your own lane and cover what you can and do what you can do. So my lane is ICT, and I will do whatever I need to be able to do with the limited resources that we have to ensure that we give Eswatini the necessary tools in the ICT space, especially when it comes to interacting with government, but also the private sector, because whether you're private or government, you're all citizens of the country.
Sikupindvuna na ungasiniketa nje sithombe silive ngoba uhambile vele umhlaba, we've got a rich profile nasingakhuluma ngayo kungaphela lo hlelo. When nasikhuluma ngale ICT space, how far are we from the rest of the region, Africa, probably in some leading countries in the world?
We've kind of let some things go we shouldn't have. I think some opportunities we've let go which we could have actually taken advantage of. I do think that some things we have scored some own goals. But that being said, it's never too late to be able to make things happen and make things work. I think that if the issue of unsiloing, if you want to call it that, if there's such a word in the dictionary, will enable us to be able to deliver what we want to deliver as ICT. We have a very good starting point. I think that the ministries want to be able to digitize. I think that the country wants to be able to do so. So when you've got that willingness, you can do a lot of things. I'm not going to say to you, I'm not going to sit here on this Monday morning and say that it's easy to do so. I think that one of the most important things we're going to have to engage in is change management with government officials, but also with the general public to say, you know, government is actually going to digitize and digitize all the way. But there's a long way to go, and this project that we're taking on is huge. I don't think people really appreciate how huge it is. People kind of think you take one thing and almost like when you plug in your phone and then it works. It's very, very cumbersome and very, very large. And also requiring, because we don't have the resources to actually put it together. You know, we don't have the budget, so we've got to really work and box smart. But once we put it together and we're able to have every single part of government digitized, it'll leapfrog us to such amazing heights. It'll give us such great exposure in the world. But most importantly, it'll give Eswatini, especially the youth, an opportunity to be able really to be with the world, to almost travel outside our own market, so that we don't have our own market limiting us because the numbers are so small.
Ngikhumbula ku MTN breakfast, you touched on a very important subject there, Minister. Wakhuluma say there is no need for the private sector, especially the companies that are in the ICT space, to compete amongst each other, but they need to collaborate. Can you expand on the collaboration part of the private sector in the ICT space?
Well, competition is part of the private sector. Yeah. I mean, that's how you win. You must compete. But there are areas where you can collaborate, and future leadership is looking more at collaborating and saying, what do you do best and what do I do best, and how can they collaborate? And most importantly, I've never seen government and the private sector as enemies. Yeah. I always think of them as people actually, if they were to be able to work together, much more can be achieved. The private sector has got much, bigger resources and bigger budgets, and they have some more experience than potentially the government sector in particular areas. And the government really has deep knowledge in how to be able to give the best to the state. So I think if they're able to get to a point where they don't see each other as them and us, but actually a we, I believe we can do a lot more. Having come from the private sector, I see where the gaps are in government, but I also see where the misunderstanding is in the private sector. And I think that if these things can be worked out, we all can win.
Okusisi nenduna yete kwatisa imbunga Savannah Maziya lesikhulumisana nayo ke langeni nalomuhla kuva nje imisebenzi lentiwa ngelolitiko kutama ukuthuthukisa ihlangosi letebu chwephesha kuleli ve la kaNgwane. Sibathola beyakethe bonke sinasibuya siyaqhubeka nalo hlelo.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhicita lokusemndeni.
Ukulena sonza kusivelela ngomsakazo wetithombe Eswatini TV sehlelweni Asakhe kwethu sihle phasi ke nenduna yetekwatisa imbunga Savannah Maziya elangeni lalomuhle. Duna inkosi ukhuluma nenzaba lenkulu ukuthi eMaswati kufuna khona ukuthola isito la hulumende kalula the government in your hands initiative. Emaswati ke minister sekane silonza soye ukuthi they've seen such great initiatives awalonja hulumende, for instance the Home Affairs Department ikayalonja kusi ngakhona kuhlola idea ukuthi seyihambe kanganani ku process, but nile disebenta 2 to 3 weeks bese tsasebenza. Under your leadership ungabeka ine Maswati confidence yakhe ekuthenini these initiatives ndawalonja and atawukhonza.
Okay, ngibhlunga lo ukuthi sekune experience le ngasiyo comfortable for eMaswati. But the reason why I'm saying that this project is so encompassing and we're bringing in both local and international experience and expertise is to ensure kona lokho kukhuluma ngako ukuthi one sustainable, it's doable, nekuthi we can deliver it within the time frame that we need to, ukuthi kungabi ne fatigue of launching. You know, people get tired of things being launched. So lesikwati ukuthi lestakufaka kutawusebenta. Uma ngakafiki bosidlani badlale ngathi kutawusebenta. If ngakafiki lokungasebenzisani kutawusebenta. For sure, that I can guarantee.
Lindzaba lenkulu minister sikubone just recently kuneba se Dubai Ports. Ngetindzaba lotiqinisako that it's a very big company in the UAE. Kungasita kanganani to leverage to try ukuthi mhlambe level bambisane nema corporate companies lamakhulu lesihambe embili le ICT.
Mina Nkosi, my understanding and my look on life is as a Maswati, let's box above our weight. Singabasabi the global leaders. I mean, Dubai Port is the largest port company in the world. Ukuthi bafike lapha is a big thing, and we must appreciate it as such. Sibone ke nathi ukuthi how do we use that opportunity singayiluzi yekuthi sebende nabo ukuthi lesi kugrowako or whatever we want to export or import or partner with them. Kutholakala ukuthi what can we do nathi as eMaswati ukuthi sithuthuke. The bottom line is we must bring in credible investors. We must bring in people with big pockets. We must ensure we bring in people laba respected globally. Ngoba nathi kusive kusinika ukuthi sibene credibility, kusinika ukuthi nalabanye bebangasadi noma bebangabona ukuthi bangayifaka imali la khaya bathi hawo if bana ngayifaka asengiyobuka namhlanje yami ngayifaka, and then give them the good incentives and then give them the skilled people and then ensure ukuthi we have a very high work ethic.
Just to chip in there, Minister, the Ministry of Commerce in emsebenzi wekuwenaka ukuthi ngubani investor lo live ingabe nini as ICT nanibuka nani ngaphandle probably kuma partners singabambisana nawo niyakhona mhlambe libambisana na commerce to say these are the kind of investors la khona in the ICT space. Sibalekela lo ukuthi njengoba sithi ekuqaleni ukuthi lamatiko asebende inside was
commerce. In fact njena laba baka Dubai Port sabathumela ukuthi bahamba bayobona IPA.
Okay.
Because IPA has got that mandate. So but njengoba ngasho ngikhathi sisemandulo hleliphe eceleni kwengonyama ukuthi one has to bring one's networks, otherwise what's the point? One has to be able to ensure ukuthi you assist wherever you can, otherwise what's the point? But in doing so vele sibambisene nabaka commerce and bayasibambisa ukuthi sikwati ukuthi bona ke as laba who have this under their portfolio to be able to work with us, to be able to see how do they now take on that investor and ensure that Eswatini businesses are able to benefit from that.
We are meeting among stakeholders, Minister. You've met with the banking sector, you've also met with business Eswatini. Ikhona the interest yokuthi bambambise uhulumende ku-implement some of the projects you've spoken about?
The business environment is very happy. They feel like it's long overdue. So they are very eager to assist. They are very eager to partner. They are very eager to see how can they help resource in some areas where they can afford to. Because they understand, once government is able to have their services in this particular framework of being digitized, their clients get better service. And so that enables them but deliver even better in a short space of time in a much more convenient manner. So they are on board, absolutely.
Niyakhona yini mhlambe minister ngoba kunema clinics lekhala ngayo private sector lakhona kuhulumende nendlela nje lekwenteka ngayo into kahulumende lehluke kakhulu ngiyakhumbula at some point kwaye even kwalontsha I law review committee tabo nemithetho lemitsala kakhulu yaSwatini le nto lokusebenzaeke ingabe as cabinet niyakhona niklala nibuke the demands ale private sector ukuthi basilungisa nako is that the political will from even government ikhona yini yokulungisa letingqwale letikhona even letenda ukuthi mhlambe private sector ingabi keen ukuthi ibambise la engabambisa khona?
Well, let me tell you one thing. One of the reasons why we're putting this government in your hand is that it'll have an area where people can follow ema cases that ahulumende ahamba kanjani in parliament and everywhere else. And to answer your question, I believe that cabinet is a very, very focused area to be able to see every part of the country is listened to. Whether it's business, whether it's the public or anybody else, we listen to what they require. Don't forget, Guti, at the beginning of this year, I wasn't around, but I know Guti, there was a meeting with Esbaya. And where are the areas where people really feel there must be urgency, where people really feel they're not getting attended to? So this cabinet has been focused on saying, how do we look at those areas? How do we service those areas? There are limitations because of budgetary issues. There are limitations because there are some areas where there's a lot that's gone wrong that needs to be fixed. And so this government has to focus on fixing before even taking it forward in some instances. But I can tell you that there is a focus in looking at how do you make life on Mamaswati even better. So our process in the ICT space is exactly that initiative of looking and saying, in our particular area, how do we ensure we deliver for Eswatini to make their lives easier so that they don't stand in lines all day, or they don't travel all the way from wherever and be told this thing is offline. Or if they have to travel, they don't have a smartphone, by a next to them, or a post office next to them, or a library next to them. That's where we want to be able to get to.
Umthetho osisekelo 288 uchaza indzaba lenkulu ukuthi uhulumende sithola uhulumende alimikise kubani decentralization silibonekela nelitiko letinkundla lisukumisa libandla lelitayinaka indzaba yoku decentralize kwama services ahulumende afike nasetinkundleni kufika kwakho minister emaswati lamaningi especially the young girls at school babe excited ngendlela lesimangaliso indzaba lenkulu yeSTEM ngiyakhumbula nawe ukuthi you are one of the top 100 women lama advocates indzaba yasemantombazana kangene kuleli hlangothi leSTEM. I know in the kingdom bashido baka natural resources lokuthi bancane kakhulu bomake nemantombazana la industry ka engineering technology maths yini lokubuka sinawufika wakhanza ukuthi mhlambe asikwendi kahle lokwenta ukuthi babe discouraged to be part of the STEM.
The STEM issue as it pertains to women is a global problem. It's a global deficiency. We are doing similar things like that the whole world is doing, where we're not really promoting women in STEM. I've heard a few people saying, but then the boys get left behind. This is not true. The deficit is pretty large. What we are, I've been involved in STEM for over 20 years. And I've been working with the UN for about 15 years in trying to get women into STEM. And I'll tell you the reason that it really, really is important to me. The businesses that I operate around the world are STEM businesses, whether it is an infrastructure business, a mining business, an ICT business, or a food business. And what I realized when I was doing transactions or when I was negotiating deals was that there were no women across the table. I was the only woman. If there was on the other side, maybe it's a
Were you not intimidated then?
No, I don't get intimidated. That's, I'm too old to be intimidated, and I never was intimidated anyway. I think it's interesting when people try to intimidate you. I think it's a waste of time. But I saw that women were not on the other side of the table. So my question was why? And so that began my journey into finding out about women's participation in STEM. What I found is that when we do participate, grades 1 through 5, we do very well. But as we get older and get up to teenage years, then we start to drop off. And even if you go to university, we really get, lower and lower numbers. And yet when we are in there, we're really winning, we're really passing, we're really showing that we can engage. Now, when we get into the career space, it gets even more difficult because in the career space, it's curated to be a male space. It's curated to be a white male space. And so what tends to happen is women have very little chance of promotion. People tend to promote people who look like them, people who speak like them. And most important, sometimes they promote people who only agree with them. And so if you come with a diversified point of view, as women tend to, if you come looking different, it's very difficult to be heard. So we have to be able to get the numbers in. We have to be able to have a human rights position to say, if the world is made up of 50% of women and we hold up half the sky, we then must be able to hold up half the economy. And that's what STEM is. STEM represents over 60% of the careers of the future. I was just talking at an event where I got an award 2 weeks ago on STEM to say, I don't think we are really understanding where STEM is going. I'm still concerned that even the way we are teaching in schools is the same way we got taught 200 years ago. When I went to school, there was Macbeth, they're still teaching Macbeth. And we're not focusing on how do we secure our kids' futures? How do we prepare them for the future? How do we understand what role as a country or as Africans we're going to play in this future?
I'm happy that ulakule uhulumende minister kuthenini itiko la education beliteka yona indaba yokuthi ayisale change le curriculum as the minister ka ICT, especially on the STEM part. How pivotal are you ukuze ndesiqiniseke ukuthi they are being pushed, those laba responsible ukuthi let's relook the curriculum yethu?
Well, you know that the Minister of Education has put up a task team that's looking at education curriculum in general. And I'm going to be working with him in a few areas, especially as it pertains to STEM education. I mean, one of the things that's great about STEM is we can teach children ICT without having all the ICT teachers, right? We can just beam into classes and be able to teach them sciences. And bantwana basemakhaya who don't tend to have all the teachers, we can give them very good teachers, science, but we're beaming into all the schools. ICT, AI, algorithms, still sitting here and being able to give everybody in every corner of the country a fighting chance in these subjects with very good teachers, considering that we've got limited resources. So this is the exciting thing about what we're going to be doing and what we're looking to do with the Ministry of Education is to give this whole thing about liberalization and decentralizing is really about giving everybody, those who are going to be retiring or who are retired, the same advantage as far as ICT is concerned.
The minister was taught Macbeth, I was taught no longer it is. Lebo 1999 skepha solo ikhona no longer it is nga 2024 ebongo sinenduna yetekwatisa imunga Savannah Maziya lesixoxisana nayo ke langeni la lomuhla njengoba iteka induna yenza ba kusilevel fune inzaba digitalization lisumele kakhulu ke ukuthi ke luhlangoso temfundo ufuna lo siliguquke indlela le kufundiswa ngayo kakhulu kade iqiniso lona luhlangothi lwete science nemakhono nje kucucutelwe emantombazane amaningi ukuthi akatithathe tifundo temjinela naletinye letoti ihlanganiswe ka engineering bonke sibathola market nasibuya siyaqhubeka nenduna.
Win your share of millions in free shopping. Buy any participating product for a chance to win. Competition ends 6 October. Get 400-gram baked beans and tomato sauce. Buy 2 for 28 Emalangeni. 5 kg Spa IQF mixed chicken portions, just $175.99. 3 kg Sunlight hand washing powder, $79.99. Pampers baby dry nappies or nappy pads, jumbo pack for $239.99. Or fresh pack Rooibos Tigeless tea bags, 80s, only $42.99.
And that's why we shop at Spa.
Kusukela ngeminyaka wa 2000 kuya ku 2004 induna ke beyilapha ku African Broadcast Network ngilomnye umsebenzi ngifuna ngena kuwo minister kulesikhathi samanje ekuthenini live for the past 20 years or so kukhulunywa indzaba kudimela nekudiphatha kwetindlu tetindzaba ngiyafuna ukuthola ukuthi ningabe nanitiko with the experience that you have kungalisita in live ukuthi media ibe self-regulated and what it means for the media to be self-regulated probably.
So I'm not a believer in regulating the media. So when you ask about that, you're talking to the wrong person. I'm a believer in ensuring that the media is responsible and in ensuring that they're able to write the truth, that when they are writing anything, they have the facts, that they don't sensationalize things just for being able to sell papers or have readers or viewers. That's my starting point. I think when you're a mature country, it's important to be like that. And I think if you want to be part of the world, it's important to be like that. Here's my position, and I think that it's a well-known position. It's that let's get to the point that if we have some dissatisfaction with something that's written about us, said about us, we have some kind of place to go to and say, this paper, this radio station, or this TV network said something about me that I don't agree with, that's untrue. And what we have come to agree on is we will have an appeals body. That appeals body is where anybody in Eswatini can go to and say, I'm very lucky that I was part of the formation of what was called BCCSA in South Africa. I was one of the first commissioners, which was a broadcast commission of South Africa, where you went and said, look, what they said about me is not true. And if you're able to prove your case, there was a retraction and an apology that was done for you. So that is really where we're trying to get to with the appeals board that we're forming, that people have the space to be able to say, look, Shuangami, it's not true. But we need a free media. We need an independent media. We need a media that can bring all of us to ensure we're always doing the job we promised we would do, we swore we would do. And we're also able to be diligent, feel empathy, and be able to be people of our word, to be impeccable with our word. That is what the media is supposed to be able to do, play an oversight role and inform the public of what we are doing and ensure that we are always informing them, so that they can inform the media, they can inform the people of Eswatini.
Google Press Index is when it very tutfuga. I think it's 111 saya ku 85. Ezosekhona lapha itiko minister singayibona itiko lakho lidlala inzima letsithi mhlambe kwenta siqiniseko sokuthi bethi indzaba eSwatini bakhona kubika ngokukhululeka and so that we also improve kule World Press Index.
Well, I mean, the whole point of this, of bringing them in, was to be able to say, listen, come and evaluate us when we first came in, and then say, come and evaluate us 6 months later, and they did. And the great thing about that evaluation is it's evaluated by other media players, other journalists. So it's not a body of corporates. It's other people who are now looking at how we are improving. The aim is to be able to even get higher on that rating. We just need to be able to continuously work at it, continuously ensure as to do what I said to you before, but also continue to not bully the media. You know, let them write the stories if they're the correct stories. If people are stealing, what about it? If people are cheating, what about it? People are getting married, what about it? You know, cover the whole gamut. If there are good things that we're doing, what about it? If there are bad things that we're doing, what about it? Don't focus only on the bad. Don't focus only on the good. Be balanced. So that's what we're looking to do with the media, to ensure that they feel that they can write the stories. They don't feel that they are threatened. They don't feel that they are under duress. They don't feel that they're going to be punished if they don't write what is necessarily, favorable. And that's what a free media does.
Lenza minister ita ne timali tsit. Budgets. The media owners probably can set up in my office. Kasho bantu labane expertise let's say the magistrates for that instance. From where we are sitting, do you feel the media owners in this country are committed to the budget to set up the offices, the structure to be able to see achieve it?
I think what people don't understand is how difficult the media business is. I ran a media business in times that were not as difficult as they are now. I mean, if you look at print, they are facing a real challenge of extinction. You look at the world, newspapers are really facing some challenges, and they need to figure out how they digitize and how they survive. If you look at television, the traditional television that we have, La Pekaya, is under threat because now there's streamings, there's Netflix and all sorts of other opportunities. The same thing with radio. Now there's podcasts. You don't have to have the full structure that we had in the olden days. So it's difficult and expensive to run a media house. That being said, though, I'm very encouraged about the media owners. They've really said, listen, we understand what you're putting together as a ministry and we want to participate. So that's been very encouraging.
Kunelindzaba minister ngiyakhumbula uhleti ne-portfolio committee yakho ya Senate and Assembly. Kwasukuma MD iPTC akhala le smartphones ngenzaba yekwebiwa kwecopper kule live. Lesa bakubita ukuthi it's a syndicate. What can we do?
Well, this is a global syndicate that happens to also operate in Eswatini. The starting point is to have laws, but at the same time, we need to be able to ensure we have prosecution.
In our case, the laws are there, but the fines are too small.
The fines are too small, and that's why we're relooking the whole law. In fact, as I speak to you right now, we're going through consultations on exactly that. But we've expanded the position to say we're not only looking at copper, but other infrastructure that is critical to the country. When people steal that, there must be high penalties and high jail terms, because even the jail terms are very, very, very low. But also to ensure that those who are also, because you don't steal something unless you've got a buyer, right? To ensure that the buyers get an even more steep sentence. And that's the position. Because unless that we stop having people buying, people will stop stealing.
Indzaba lenye iminisangile yaka EPTC, indzaba yeku-roll out kwe-fiber. Yes, the money is involved there. Litiko lendani kubambisa EPTC. Probably ngoba ngi-understand ukuthi kwanyalo bata kwenda in stages. And probably nabafika ku-2030 uyakhanza ukuthi le fiber. Yes. What are you doing now as a minister responsible to ensure probably that they get the funding kubaleni nje bayi-roll out quickly?
So thanks for asking that question, because it's a very critical question. We need to be able to have a very strong backbone, and EPTC is our backbone, right, with the bandwidth. Both from fiber optic, which is what we're going to lay, versus copper, but also from bringing other megabytes from outside the country. We are working on ensuring that the EPTC can lay the fiber by the end of 2025, right, one time, so that we don't, as you rightly say, keep using our budget. So my position is to go and get that money. And I'm lucky enough to know a few people who can be able to give us some money. Outside the kingdom? Because, it is what it is, right? Some will give it to us in kind, some will give it to us as loans, but we're trying to minimize that because we also know a loan gets paid back. So you can't just say, I'm going to get a loan and be relaxed about it. So we're looking at that. And we're also looking, one of the things that we must always try and look at is, how do we commercialize this fiber optic from the minute we lay it down? And not just think about, well, we're just going to lay the fiber optic and this is what's going to happen. So the thinking is very 360 in the way we're looking at it, is say, we lay it, how do we get the money back from it? And also, how do we commercialize it? So as we talk to funders and talk to grantees, we're looking at a formula that says, it's not the old-fashioned, you lay it down and then you're badala, you never see any return. We must be focused on seeing ROIs in everything that we're investing in.
Bokosina usenza vulela msakati wakho ngumsakati wetithombe Eswatini TV sinenduna yetekwatisa imbunga Savannah Maziya lesikhuluma naye ke langeni lalo umuntu asesihamba umgamo uphuthelwe nje nangabe usanza kusivulela sethi nizaba lesitekile letendewa ngilelitiko. Still on the EPTC issue. Indzaba ye-unbundle HPCC is taken ages now. Can that be achieved under your leadership?
So now you're being very unfair to me. Some problems are all problems, right? I mean, one of the biggest issues that why it can't be unbundled is pension money, right? And so I think that's been untidy. And I think how it's been dealt with has been very unfair and very untidy. Now, the problem with these things is that when you come into the position, you must now solve problems you had no business in and didn't, cause. But we are working on figuring out how we get that pension money because it's growing all the time. So our position, besides the infrastructure, is looking at the social situation, because it does make EPTC more expensive. It does make it less agile to operate. Post offices around the world are dying. So of course, ours is also going to be a position where it's not growing as it can. So we've got to figure out ways to make it grow, but also to be cost effective and competitive as a play. We can't keep protecting it because the world is open now. And we can't have a situation where it's a monopoly forever. So we are looking at how to find that money, and hopefully we'll find it. On that one, I can't say I guarantee, but I'm working very hard to ensure that we find it and figure out how we can be able to give this. It's hard to raise money when it's not for infrastructure, when it's for pensions and old debt. That is not what they call money resourcing debt, but we'll find it somehow. We'll figure out a way to find it. And that's one of the things we're focusing on in this ministry.
Probably another unfair question to you, Minister, is how key is RSTP? RSTP in terms of driving probably even the technology in this country. RSTP.
So RSTP, from my readings and my understandings, has been around since 2012.
Yeah.
Right. And it's now 2024, so some 12 years later. And if you look at the trajectory of it, it was brought into the country by His Majesty, who had seen similar types of parks around the world and understood very wisely that these are the things that can be engine rooms for growing the digital space for Eswatini and connecting us with the world. I think there's been some lost opportunities. I think there's been some chances where certain things could have been done to be more focused on income generating than only just spending money. So what we're doing now is that the Government in Your Hand process and program will be part of that engine room. Any kind of data centering that is government focused will be part of that room. And then we'll also have to look and see how we bring in robotics to be also part of RSPT. And let's look at space issues. I mean, it's exciting to start looking at space issues as Eswatini. But also don't forget that RSTP is also part of a biotech, right? So to focus not only on the technology part, but also on the biotech part, looking at how we bring in that technology as well. So we're gonna turn it around. It's very difficult. There seems to be something happening there that I don't quite understand myself. It's a challenge. There seems to be a lot of interest in there. I'm not sure why.
Interest from outside or within?
It just feels that there's a lot of interest to not make it work. And so sometimes you feel that you're working against, the wind. But we will win because good triumphs over evil. And so we will ensure that we resource it. We will ensure that all the teams that are there are able to work effectively. We will bring the markets. We will bring the investors. And as long as we are given the opportunity to run and make it work, we really will make it work. If there's no interference and no gains, we really will make RSTP work. And the country will be the better for it.
I believe with the spirit that you have, Minister, indeed you will make it work. Eswatini needs RSTP to function. Ngose sibathelwe emarket sinenduna yethu kwathi imbunga Savannah Maziya. Sibathelwe emarket nasibuya siyalephetha ke hlelo lalomuhla.
Kubhadala umthelo kuyinto lenhle nalefanele kodwa ke imigomo nemibanzela ekubhadala wona ke umthelo ingaba lukhuni kuyiconza kulabo ke lababhadala ke umthelo nalabo ke labawubhadalisako kufike ke esigabeni lapho kungasavunyelwana khona. Ungabe unayo ke indzaba lethengeke kukhulunyiswa lethinza ke umthelo wakho lapho ungasaboni ngaliso linye naloyo ke lokubhadalisa ke umthelo. Hlanganyela nathi ke ehlelweni embili kanye njalo ngelisonto ngensimbi yesithupha kusihlwa lapho khona ke inkampani iEswatini Revenue Appeals Tribunal lokuliphiko lahulumende ngaphasi ke kwelitiko ke letemafa lolubuke dona tindzaba tekucatulula lapho kungasabonwa ngaliso linye emkhathisini wemtheli nemthelisi. kulolu hlelo le nkampani itabe ichazela eMaswati ukuthi sifakwa njani ke sicelo lapho khona ke ufisa ke kusitakala uma ungasaboni ngeliso linye nalo ke lokuthelisako. Leti ndzaba leti sitabe sikhulumisa ke ehlelweni embili kanye kusukela mhla titine ke enyangeni yeNgci kulo mnyaka losetulu kuya ke kumhla tinge-27 enyangeni yeMphala kulo mnyaka. Lo hlelo embili kanye lingena ngensimbi yesithupha kusihlwa njalo ngelisondvo kanti ungaphindze ulibukele ke ku YouTube channel yethu @Eswatini TV.
Win your share of millions in free shopping. Buy any participating product for a chance to win. Competition ends 6 October. Get 400-gram baked beans and tomato sauce. Buy 2 for 28 Emalangeni. 5 kg Spa IQF mixed chicken portions, just $175.99. 3 kg Sunlight hand washing powder, $79.99. Pampers baby dry nappies or nappy pads, jumbo pack for $239.99. Or fresh pack Rooibos Tigeless tea bags, 80s, only $42.99.
And that's why we shop at Spa.
Bukelisi yalephetha ke hlelo la lomuhla hlelo Asakhe Kwetfu sixoxisana nenduna yetekwatisa imbunga Savannah Maziya. How's your parliament life? Are you enjoying parliament? Ngiyakhumbulana kune standing orders and everything there. And you struggled a bit in your first days.
Well, I struggled because, I mean, it's quite involved in anything that's new. And unfortunately for me, I didn't really have any kind of training in it. So to understand how it works and what's required was a bit of a challenge. And I suppose when you're new, people like to take advantage and, push you this way and that way. But that's fine. It's part of what makes people feel important, and that's good. I like it. I like oversight. I like people who ask me why I'm doing what I'm doing and why we're doing what we're doing. I like people who ensure that we are continuing to focus on delivery for the people. I like people who really have an interest of the people at heart. So as long as we're working in that direction, I'm very happy. I don't want to be able to disrespect them in any way. So I always want to attend. And I always try, even if I don't have business, if it's possible, I really, really want to attend and ensure that you're also learning, how they operate. You're also participating in the process, and you're also contributing if you can in the process. So I like it. I don't mind it at all.
You travel a lot, Minister. In fact, you're a busy woman. Mm-hmm. How do you balance your private business? You
know what they say about if you want something done, give it to a busy person, and it's going to be done. I like working. I'm not one of those people with hobbies. I'm not one of those people who like to just hang around. I like working. I like challenging myself. I like new things. I like to be able to plan my life and say what's new. Of course, this particular part of my life was never in the plan, so that's a bit different. And I like to succeed. I am an A-type personality, so I like to succeed. So my focus then is to be able to plan my life properly. I'm a very good planner. And I'm also a very good resourcer. I like to resource my life, whether it's my private life or my business life. It's, I like to resource it and figure out what kind of resources do I require to be able to make this job work and to be able to deliver it as best as I possibly can. And as as a ministry, we only have 1.6% of the budget. So we're going to have to, really do some miracles, God willing, to deliver what we need to deliver on. So that's a challenge, and I like to work on a challenge. I like to work in an environment that allows you to work. You don't always get that. I understand that this is politics, so the environment is about fighting most of the time to figure out how to get stuff to work. But in the main, I am one of those people who has been lucky in my life. I've been given potentially, as I always say, more than maybe I deserve. And so when I see the opportunity to be really of service and bring in a resource that even another ministry requires, I'll definitely do so. But I won't, impose myself in any way, shape, or form. So I'm able to have my private business resource with the right people, experienced people, focused and dedicated people whom I've worked with for years. In government, you don't choose the people you work with, so you got to figure out how to harness the skills that you find, how to develop the people that you find, how to get the people who really want to work with you and want to be able to get somewhere in a particular way, and you can, travel the journey with. This is an exciting time for me in the sense that in the latter part of my life, I'm not dead yet, but in the latter part of my life, I've been given the opportunity to give back in this way. I'm a big person, on giving back. In any part of the world, I'm always doing some kind of charity, but I like that this is on a stage that is a formal stage to be able to do so, as opposed to being on a private sector stage. And now you really are able to see what could be done in government, really what could be done to improve it, really what could be done to improve the country. You can see kind of where things could go right and see what role you could potentially play in that if you're allowed to.
Your colleague, Minister Commerce, Minister, wathi naga geva kusinduna embuso was somewhere in Singapore or something. No,
I was in Singapore. I don't know
you were in Singapore?
Yes, I was in Singapore. I don't know where he was. Maybe he was also in Singapore. Yes.
Okay. Well, did it come as a surprise, or somebody informed you beforehand?
No, it was a surprise. Okay. It was a surprise, and it's still a surprise.
It's still a surprise.
Yeah, it is. Some days I wake up and I go, oh my God, I'm still here. But it was a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to figure out in my head, ukuthi ngabe a relaxed Minister Savannah Maziya, uba njani? Ngabe udlala music? Talk to us about a relaxed Savannah Maziya, not even a minister for that matter.
I relax by working. I'm one of those weird people who likes work, who doesn't think of work as work. I like to be able to say, okay, you know what, I want to buy this company, or I want to get into this industry. And I try to figure out how do you do it. And then I research it, and then I, get involved, and then I end up in that industry. I'm not an engineer, right? I mean, I'm trained as a banker, an investment banker, but I like to get into these things. I like to get into engineering. I like to get into ICT. I like to get into a whole host of things. I mean, I'm doing a lot of work in space right now, in my private capacity. I'm looking to say, how do we, as Africans, look at space, and why don't we have any kind of real estate in space as Africans? And I'm hoping that we can look at that here in Eswatini, because I was doing it before I became minister. I like to look at issues of how do we use our plants to be able to heal the world, to bring organic medicine to the world. I like to be able to say, how do we create leadership that's more empathetic? I like to go and talk around the world about the issue of leadership, that the leadership of old was the one that was brazen and, demanding. Yeah. The leadership of today is understanding and empathetic. It also brings people along. And the wisest leadership of today doesn't tell you every day that I'm a leader. You just know by the action. So I like to do all these things. And so my relaxed person is still a working person. Yeah. I do a lot of mentoring. I do global mentoring, especially of young people, because I think young people don't get a chance to get people to tell them how to maneuver the journey. They just keep falling and not understanding. I also like to be able to work with charities. I think that if you've been given a lot, you must give back. But I just don't give money away. People think because you've got it, you just give it away. The reason why I have it, because I don't give it away. So that's me relaxed. Okay. Yeah.
Finally, Minister, in 30 seconds, after your time as Minister of ICT has come and gone, what is that one thing Minister ICT Savannah Maziya akhumbuleyo?
Government in your hand, dedication, honest, and wanting this country to develop and get to where it really can be.
Minister, thank you so very much for talking to us. Keep shining. We celebrate you as Eswatini TV, njenga Minister responsible for ICT. And as a nation, siyajabula bonke ukuthi induna njengoba ihambe emavela amaningi emhlabeni, IT ihambeli yona nemndeni wayo nesibongo sakaMaziya kepha iphakamisa umjeka welive lakangwane. Bokosi kutaba ke sevingini lelitako ngekuvuma kwalomsala wetinsuku sesinalenye ke induna yembuso sesite kana khona indzaba letinteka kulelo tiko lelo ukuthi ingabe bendane kuthuthukisa eMaswati. Kwalomuhla bonkosi usuka kube muhle. Msale. Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you.
If we sikhuluma about the self and relationships, this is one of the very important topics. Lengiva ngathi as young people and as everybody, lesingakhona ukuthi siyibuke and singene kiyo in depth because the self is the basis for everything. Konke kuqala ku the self. So what exactly is the self? Uma ke sikhuluma nge the self sikhuluma ngawe personally. You could okay ke ungubani and what do you want in life and what do you want to be in life. Yourself ke inesisekelo noma ke ine basis la khona yakheka khona. Everything starts from early childhood development. Siyitokhumbula ukuthi asikaveli samila sabakanga mhlambe asikaveli samila sabakangaka. We are from somewhere and we were raised in different environments. We were raised in different situations. All of us have different backgrounds. So, kuyasita loko or else kutasisita as sihamba siqhubekela phambili into understanding who we are.
Funani wena ufunani dalwa. Sifansi ngeslip. Ufunani wena.
Ngokulunga endlini yami kone njani?
Ufika kahle ngathi sovele yathi ukuthi
ngaphambi kokuba sibe na any other relationship in life, the most relationship we need to have and build upon is the relationship with ourselves. Leyo iba sisekelo ne basis for any other relationship letobe se iya landzela lapho. It can either be a friendship, it can either be a relationship between you and your family members. It can either be a relationship or lesingathi mhlambe ma romantic relationships.
Ushiye endlini ngabafona ngihamba ushiye nje phenza ngikhanza nje
wena baba sekufebani nawazi kwenta mako
hayi akhambi kahle
hayi
akhambi le mali uyithathe kuthenga lokho
ungizile ngithathe ishintshi lezi maphoshi nani.
There's what we call a childhood background or childhood traumas. These are the things lothola ukuthi tiyayitendeke growing up because as a child uyayokhanza ukuthi you do not have that power to fight or to stand for yourself when these things are happening. There are a lot of things that happen when you grow up. Just like ngishito ukuthi we grow from different environments. So uyayokhanza ukuthi ezisikhula ngitokubekisela nje maybe on my side. So I grew up in the rural areas or in the countryside. There were things that used to happen kuleso sikhathi growing up, your mid-late 90s. So, and those things were the things that used to happen to our parents. So, ukhanza ukuthi like these things, like the treatment maybe my parents received while growing up. Uyakhanza ukuthi babe sebayiqhubela kithi and nathi if we are not healed or if we have not reached a stage lakhona stothi that I need healing, I need to do this or I need to be whole again, then nathi sitaqhubela phambili. That is what we call intergenerational trauma.
Wena zonani stress sakho lelo toqhamuka ngaso ngaphandle ngicela ngosikiphela kimi
logo to a child or to a young person kumele ukuthi akhule traumatized noma assessment la sekushaqeka ukuthi ushaqekile, because this is what happens with trauma and the brain. I-trauma noma kushaqeka noma kwenteka kwesimo lesishaqisako kufike kushintshe lesimo salendlela noma lengqondo le yakheke ngayo. So lengqondo then iba forced to change according to the level or to the amount of the trauma. So uyayikhanza ukuthi that bese ku developer problems when this child maybe are set into the adolescent stage, then they have problems.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds, full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, to feel the rush of life overwhelm you, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. You ask, and we give you the royal experience. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. There are but a few places on earth so special, so unique,